I did a recent video stating this thought process, how the wave doesn't collapse when you're observing the double slit experiment. And I've been playing around with a double slit experiment, or actually it's a laser and interference pattern experimentation at home. And I've found something that I believe is going to help add some, this should be well known actually, but I've never seen this demonstrated, how that interference pattern is not linear or horizontal. It's not a vertical line at all, that it's actually like toroidal. It's going around in a big circle. But let's test what that is and take a look at it and try to visualize it. My name is Dan Paulson. Welcome to the video. First of all, take a look at this right here. All right, I put it on the white plate just so you can see the hair right there. I've got a laser, some Scotch tape, a large washer, and a couple of my wife's hairs that I pulled out of her brush. Then what I'm going to do is, what I did is take that washer and some tape, and I taped one of my wife's hairs vertically and then horizontally. Actually, I just made it across. However you want to do it, just put them across that. Mine are not perfect. They're off a little bit. Let's take a look at the results and think about what we're seeing here. Okay, so right here I've got the laser aimed at the wall, and I'm just recording it with the camera. And as I move that hair around, you can see, since I'm doing it by hand, it kind of pops in and out there, but you can see when I've got it just in the right position that interference pattern is there. The interference pattern here looks a little bit different than the one we're used to seeing on the videos, aren't they? Let's talk about that for a second and why that is. The interference pattern is still there. It's in waves, but the reason that we're seeing it differently here than when we see them doing it on a double slit experiment. On a double slit experiment, they're using energy that is universal energy. It's coming from the universe. It's traveling in the universe. It's expanding and it's moving out in all directions. When you get light coming from a sun, the sun is very, very huge. It's big, and it's putting out light in all directions, and it's sending it out. There are photons that are being ejected. They're going like this. They're moving away from each other because it's coming from a sphere. They're not going to be aligned parallel side by side. Even if they start right side by side at that sun across, light years across the universe, they're going to be spreading apart. They have to. When you get to a laser, everything is being generated from a flat. All the light wave is being generated in a straight line. So all of the photons are traveling parallel to each other. They're not diverging. They're parallel. It's still light. It's just a little bit different on the orientation, but we're still moving in waves and we're still seeing an interference pattern. Does that make sense? Okay. Probably simply stated, in the double slit experiment, the wave pattern shows that the waves are diverging. And here, with a laser, it shows that the wave pattern is there, but that it's not diverging. It's all staying in a tight beam. All right, we go back and look at the beam, and look, when I rotate that thing 90 degrees, we see that as I move it around, the wave pattern shifts. It actually stays 90 degrees off the position of the hair. Wherever the hair is aligned up, the interference pattern that we are observing is 90 degrees off of that. So right here, when you see the interference pattern vertical like this, I'm holding the hair horizontal. And when I hold the hair vertically, then we see the interference pattern here is horizontal. That's what we normally see. Normally, these are fixed. Nobody bounces around with them. I was too sloppy to make a fixed rig. All right, in your imagination, can you already imagine that this wave now, it's not a linear progression. It is a circular, toroidal progression. We're in the midst of that. Wherever we split the beam, we're going to see the light wave, but if we continue to scan around, we're going to see that interference pattern is not in a two-dimensional plane, but in a three-dimensional plane. Let's look at it with two hairs. All right, before looking at the pattern on the wall, let's go ahead and take a look at what I'm doing at the laser end. I've got you see both of those two hairs are starting to show up there. I'm moving it around and just playing with it like this. This is what got me looking at things thinking, oh yeah, something's a little crazier there. Instead of having it fixed and stationary, I just did it by hand, and that's when I realized, you know what, it's going around there, isn't it? I'm glad I didn't have it fixed. All right, I'm just adjusting as I go. I've got the camera set up. I'm looking at it. When I get it in the right position, you can see that both of those two interference lines, 90 degrees off from the hair, are present. And as I rotate the washer around, which causes the hairs to rotate, that entire interference pattern is moving around. What does that tell us? That interference pattern is a circle heading out. It is not a horizontal or a linear wave. Does that make sense? All right, that's my addition. Science already knows this. I just haven't seen it on videos, and thought, well, I would put something together to show what I'm. You do thought experiment. Just utilize your cognition. You go through this, you understand what's going on. I've got a strong RF background. I know what radiating waves are like. I've studied all of that, antenna theory, things like that. So this is, even though I don't have the scientific chops to put it in lingo that makes people go, I wonder what he's talking about right there. I'm pretty plain language when I understand something. You try to understand complex things, but it doesn't mean you have the capacity to repeat it in the way that you heard it. You have to kind of filter it through my own cognitive ability and say, I don't understand that until it's in simple words for me. So anyway, I hope that was helpful. See you in the next video.